Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take that stack of sources you send our way, and we really cut straight to the core insights. We want to give you the context, the aha moments you need, to be genuinely well-informed. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on something quite paradoxical in finance. Cash. It seems so simple, right? But there's this intense complexity keeping it viable, our mission. To dive into these excerpts titled, "Do you know what powers your cash transactions?"
It's a really essential question, because for you, handling cash every day, well, the transaction feels instant, simple. But this deep dive, it's about uncovering the critical infrastructure, often unseen, the scaffolding, if you will, that makes sure that $20 bill is trusted, accepted everywhere. These sources suggest the systems behind physical money, far less simple than we tend to assume.
Yeah, and we're dissecting insights specifically from research by Bastion Research.
Yeah.
The whole discussion really pivots on their core finding. They summarize it in this section called Quiet Giants Powering Your Cash Transactions.
Oh.
Okay, let's unpack that. Quiet giants.
Mm-hmm.
What does that fundamentally mean in finance? Usually, financial giants are loud, right? Consumer-facing banks, big investment firms. But this research implies there's this whole other layer of immense power that actively avoids the spotlight.
Exactly. And let's pin down Bastion Research's initial point here. We need to separate the exchange itself from the system. The exchange is, you buying coffee with a $5 bill. Simple.
Right. Hand over the cash, get the coffee.
But the system powering it, that's the massive, almost industrial scale setup, ensuring that bill is real, the bank vault has enough, the shop's cash gets picked up safely. We're talking logistics, security, verification tech, distribution networks. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the stability of cash isn't just a government promise. It's about the physical reliability of that whole supply chain. If one part of that chain fails, cash basically stops working, which interestingly reveals a kind of centralized dependency, even for physical money.
That's a great point. We think of cash as decentralized because, well, no central server approves my coffee purchase. But if those centralized logistics networks, the ones moving, counting, checking the notes if they suddenly stop,
then every ATM, every store register, they run dry pretty fast. Days, maybe?
And that high level of dependency, that seems to be what Bastion Research is really getting at here.
Which naturally leads to the question, why this specific research? Why now? It seems Bastion Research saw that the public assumption cash is simple creates a blind spot.
A vulnerability.
Potentially. If you don't know who controls the flow of physical cash, you can't really assess the risks or maybe the monopolistic power being wielded behind the scenes.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's focus on that phrase, quiet giants. It's deliberately contradictory, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's take the giant part first. The research points to what? Immense scale, influence.
Immense scale, market dominance, but in very specialized infrastructure sectors. These aren't small shops. Often they're monopolies or, oligopolies controlling critical choke points in the whole currency life cycle.
Okay, so big, powerful players.
That's the structure. And then there's the quiet aspect. They operate outside public view, mainly because they're B2B, business to business.
Ah, so they're not advertising during the Super Bowl.
Exactly. They aren't after your checking account. They serve central banks, commercial banks, huge retail chains. Their whole business model is built on reliable, discrete operation. So there's just no need for a public profile or media attention.
So what are these quiet giants actually doing then to power cash? The research suggests, dominance in a few key areas?
Yeah, it breaks down into roughly 3 main functions, all operating at a scale that's, frankly, staggering. The first one is probably the most visible, if you know where to look. Cash in transit, CIT services.
The armored trucks we see.
Right. We assume maybe our local bank handles moving its own cash. Often not. There are these global, highly specialized firms contracted to move billions, literally billions of dollars across huge distances every single day.
Wow.
And what's fascinating there is the implication. These logistics monopolies essentially dictate the physical cost and the risk profile of handling cash worldwide.
And I imagine the security involved is intense. It's not just driving a sturdy truck.
Oh, absolutely. It's a high-tech logistics game. Then, the second key function, currency processing and verification technology. Think about a $20 bill. It might circulate for years. But before it goes back into an ATM, it needs checking. Is it real? Is it too worn out?
Right, someone has to sort it.
These quiet giants own the proprietary tech. The high-speed banknote counting machines, BCMs, they can sort thousands of notes a minute.
And not just counting, you said verifying, too.
Exactly. They use sophisticated scanners to check all the anti-counterfeiting features, assess the physical condition, deciding if a note needs to be pulled from circulation.
So that's like an industrial-scale quality control. And again, probably only a few companies make these specialized machines globally.
Precisely. A kind of technical monopoly. They set the standard for what counts as fit currency.
Okay, so logistics, processing tech. What's the third piece?
The third element, maybe less obvious, is strategic vaulting and forecasting. These giants often manage huge, secure vaults separate from banks holding bulk reserves of cash for a whole region or nation.
So like backup storage.
Backup storage, but also active management. They forecast demand shifts, holidays, economic events, maybe even natural disasters, and manage the supply accordingly.
They're essentially the strategic inventory managers for physical currency.
That's a good way to put it. And this control over the supply buffers, well, it gives them immense quiet leverage over how money flows.
That really is the aha moment, isn't it? The simple cash transaction you make relies on maybe just a handful of hyper-specialized global firms that own the machines, the trucks, the secure warehouses, the forecasting models.
And if Bastion Research felt the need to call them giants, it strongly implies very little competition in these absolutely critical sectors.
Which leads back to that idea of hidden knowledge.
Right. If knowledge is power, or at least most valuable when understood, then these sources are saying something vital about our financial system is basically hidden from view. And think about the risk. If just a few global players control the physical movement and the technical validation of cash,
then cash isn't really decentralized in practice.
Functionally, no. It becomes a highly centralized system, just propped up by private logistical oligopolies. That kind of changes how we should think about its security, doesn't it?
It really does. And that structural setup, it highlights why their quiet nature, as Bastion Research puts it, is so significant. If a big digital payment company hikes its fees, there's usually an immediate public outcry, maybe regulatory attention.
Sure, it's headline news.
But these infrastructure providers, they could potentially change the cost structure or even the accessibility of cash handling, and most people would never know.
That invisibility removes layers of public and regulatory scrutiny.
And you're saying that lack of scrutiny isn't just an accident?
Probably not entirely. It's somewhat by design, or at least a convenient outcome of their B2B focus. The very fact that Bastion Research is highlighting this suggests they see a potential danger in that invisibility.
Because the public assumes, the government prints the money and handles everything after that?
Pretty much. But the reality is the day-to-day operational maintenance of cash. It's largely outsourced to these few massive private corporations.
Specialists in global risk and logistics.
Exactly.
Okay, let's bring this back home. For you listening, what does this all mean when you're just, using cash? The big takeaway from these Bastion Research excerpts seems to be even the most basic financial thing we do depends on these massive, powerful, yet almost invisible players.
You might assume cash is simple, maybe even decentralized in spirit, but the moment you need reliability and scale, well, you introduce the need for centralized, organized power. Somewhere.
Even if it's hidden.
Especially if it's hidden. It forces us, really, to apply critical thinking even to things that seem simple on the surface. We tend to save our scrutiny for the obviously complex stuff, right? Like crypto algorithms or high-frequency trading.
Yeah.
But this research is a good reminder. The physical bedrock, the paper money, relies on similarly sophisticated, highly centralized control points, both technological and logistical.
So to quickly recap, we dove into what powers cash transactions using insights from Bastion Research, focusing on their term, quiet giants. We saw their power really comes from dominating three pillars: the logistics, CIT, the proprietary processing tech, and that strategic supply management through vaulting.
And that really is the final thought we want to leave you with. These sources challenge us. They challenge us to question that perceived simplicity of cash, to look beyond the obvious players on the stage. Always ask, who benefits from staying out of the spotlight? And what kind of strategic leverage does that invisibility give them?
So next time you handle a banknote, maybe think beyond the simple exchange. Consider that complex, quiet machinery, the actual quiet giants that had to work perfectly across time zones, across logistical hurdles, just for that transaction to happen. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other everyday systems are powered by giants we never notice simply because they prefer the shadows, quietly controlling the essential hidden plumbing? That's your thought experiment for the week.